The wrench slipped from my greasy fingers as my phone buzzed against the concrete garage floor. 10:30 on a Tuesday night, and I was still under the hood of my 15-year-old Ford, trying to coax another few months out of the transmission. The fluorescent light above flickered like it had been doing for the past 3 years, casting dancing shadows across the oil stains that mapped out my evening ritual. "Don't wait up. The CEO invited me to discuss my promotion." I stared at Danielle's message, wiping motor oil on my already stained coveralls. Discuss my promotion. Right. In my 12 years of marriage, I'd learned that corporate speak was just another language for lies. When your wife texts you at 10:30 about discussing promotions, she's not talking about salary increases. I typed back, "Good luck." 2 words, simple, clean, no accusations, no drama. Just like Owen Mercer always handled things, with that blue-collar restraint my old man taught me before he passed. Keep your mouth shut, your eyes open, and your hands busy. But my hands weren't the only things that stayed busy these days. I'd been documenting Danielle's career advancement for exactly 37 days. Not because I'm some paranoid husband who checks phone records and follows his wife around town. I'm a facilities manager at Thornton Industries, which means I fix things that break and notice things that don't belong. When your wife starts working late 3 nights a week, when she buys new underwear she never wears around you, when she suddenly cares about her appearance for client meetings, well, that's just another system showing signs of failure. The garage door rumbled as I hit the opener, stepping out into the crisp October air. Our neighborhood looked like every other middle-class subdivision in the Midwest. Identical ranch houses with identical driveways, where identical families lived their identical lives. The Hendersons' porch light was still on. Mrs. Chen was walking her dog. Normal people doing normal things while my wife was across town getting her promotion. I pulled out my phone again and scrolled through the photos I'd taken last month. Danielle and Philip Thornton at Romano's, the upscale Italian place downtown. Her hand on his arm as they shared dessert, his fingers brushing hers as he reached for the wine glass. The way she threw her head back and laughed at something he whispered, the same laugh she used to give me before promotions became more important than marriage. I'd been sitting 3 tables away, hidden behind a pillar, watching my wife audition for her new position. The irony wasn't lost on me that I'd paid for her dinner with the same credit card she was using to destroy our marriage. But the real prize was the photo I'd taken in the parking lot afterward. Danielle pressed against Thornton's Mercedes, his hand tangled in her blonde hair, her mouth open in what corporate America probably called performance review. I'd snapped it through the chain-link fence of the adjacent construction site, my phone camera capturing every detail of their professional development. Philip Thornton, 45 years old, CEO of Thornton Industries, married to Abigail Thornton for 18 years. 2 kids in private school, a mansion in the hills, and a reputation for promoting attractive female employees who showed exceptional dedication to after-hours collaboration. I'd done my research. Now, standing in my driveway with motor oil under my fingernails and 37 days of evidence in my phone, I made a decision that would change everything. I opened my contacts and found Abigail Thornton's number. LinkedIn had made it easy to connect with her. She ran some charity foundation and was always networking with local business owners. I'd messaged her 2 weeks ago about donating some old office furniture to her organization. Professional. Innocent. The kind of connection that wouldn't raise any red flags. I attached the parking lot photo to a text message. No words, no explanation. Just the image of her husband and my wife engaged in their promotion discussion. Send. 20 minutes. That's how long it took for my phone to ring. Owen? Danielle's voice was thick with tears, that particular kind of crying that happens when your world collapses in real time. Owen, something terrible happened. The promotion, they canceled it. Philip said there were complications, that HR had concerns about my qualifications. I leaned against my truck, watching Mrs. Chen disappear around the corner with her little terrier. That's unfortunate. Unfortunate? Owen, this was my chance. My shot at the executive level. I've been working toward this for months, and now… She dissolved into sobs that echoed through the phone speaker. Maybe next time, I said. Next time? There won't be a next time. Philip won't even look at me. He had Sandra from HR escort me out of the building like I'd done something wrong, like I was some kind of threat. Sandra Voss. I knew Sandra, 40-something divorced, with the kind of corporate shark instincts that kept executive secrets buried deeper than toxic waste. If Sandra was involved, it meant Thornton was in full damage control mode. I'm sure it'll work out, I told my wife. Work out? Owen, are you even listening to me? My career is over. Everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed. Her voice cracked on the word sacrificed, and I almost laughed. I'm listening. Can you pick me up? I'm at that coffee shop on 5th Street. I can't drive right now, and I need to come home. Home. Interesting choice of words from someone who'd been spending her evenings in hotel parking lots. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I hung up and walked back into the garage, looking at the tools scattered across my workbench. Wrenches, screwdrivers, pliers, everything you need to fix things that are broken. But some things can't be repaired with the right tool and a little elbow grease. Some things need to be completely torn down before you can build something new. The drive to 5th Street took me past Romano's, past the construction site where I'd taken the photo, past the Thornton Industries building where my wife had spent the last month destroying our marriage one promotion meeting at a time. The city looked different at night, like all the daytime pretenses had been stripped away, leaving only the raw truth of what people really were. I found Danielle sitting in her Lexus in the coffee shop parking lot, her face buried in her hands. Even crying, even devastated, she was beautiful. That's what had attracted me to her 12 years ago, the way she could light up a room just by walking into it, the way she made me feel like I was worth something more than my paycheck and my work boots. I tapped on her window. She looked up, her mascara streaked down her cheeks like war paint. Owen, thank God. I was starting to think, get in the truck. She locked her car and climbed into the passenger seat, immediately reaching for my hand. I don't understand what happened. Everything was going so well, and then tonight, out of nowhere, Philip just changed his mind? Yes, like someone had gotten to him, like someone had poisoned him against me. She squeezed my fingers, her wedding ring pressing against my skin. Owen, you don't think someone at the company is sabotaging me, do you? I started the engine and pulled out of the parking lot. Why would anyone want to sabotage you? I don't know. Jealousy, maybe? Some of the other women in the office have been acting strange lately, making comments about favoritism, about how quickly I was moving up the ladder. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Maybe someone saw me with Philip and got the wrong idea. The wrong idea. I had to admire her commitment to the narrative. What kind of wrong idea? You know how office gossip works. People see a male boss mentoring a female employee, and they automatically assume something inappropriate is happening. It's so unfair, Owen. I've worked twice as hard as any man in that company, and the moment I get close to real success, someone tries to tear me down. We stopped at a red light, and I looked at my wife in the dim glow of the dashboard. She believed her own story. That was the truly remarkable thing. She'd convinced herself that she was the victim in all of this, that her promotion discussions with Philip Thornton were just innocent career development. Maybe you should take a break from work for a few days, I suggested. A break? Owen, I can't take a break. I need to figure out how to fix this, how to prove that I deserve that promotion. Philip will come around once he realizes that whoever is spreading rumors about us is just trying to cause trouble. Us. There it was. The admission wrapped in denial. The light turned green, and I drove us home through the quiet suburban streets. Our house looked smaller when we pulled into the driveway, like it had shrunk while we were gone. The garage door was still open, my tools still scattered across the workbench, the fluorescent light still flickering its irregular rhythm. "I'm exhausted," Danielle said as we walked through the front door. "This whole day has been a nightmare." "I bet." She stopped in the hallway and turned to face me. "Owen, I need you to know that whatever happens with work, whatever rumors people might spread, you and I are solid. This marriage, this life we've built together, that's what matters, not some stupid promotion." I nodded. "Absolutely." "I love you," she said, standing on her toes to kiss my cheek. "Thank you for being understanding about all of this. Some husbands would be angry about their wives working late, about all the time I've been spending on this promotion. But you've been so supportive. That's what husbands do." She smiled for the first time all evening. "I'm going to take a shower and try to get some sleep. Tomorrow I'll figure out how to salvage my career." I watched her walk down the hallway toward our bedroom, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. 37 days of documentation, one carefully timed photograph, and 20 minutes for justice to arrive. Not bad for a facilities manager who fixes broken things. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. A.T. Abigail Thornton." I'd been wondering when she'd reach out. I typed back, "When and where?" "Tomorrow, Riverside Park, noon. Come alone." I deleted the message thread and walked back out to the garage. The wrench was still lying on the concrete where I'd dropped it, and my truck's engine was still making that grinding noise that meant expensive repairs were coming. But some things were more important than fixing transmissions. Some things required a completely different set of tools. Riverside Park at noon was the kind of place where suburban mothers brought their toddlers to play on swings and feed ducks stale bread. The October sun filtered through maple trees that were just starting to turn, casting everything in that golden light that made Middle America look like a postcard. I sat on a bench near the playground, watching a woman push her daughter on the swing set while talking on her phone about grocery lists and soccer practice. Normal life. The kind of life I used to think I had. Abigail Thornton arrived exactly at 12, driving a white Range Rover that probably cost more than my annual salary. She parked near the tennis courts and walked toward me with the kind of confident stride that comes from 18 years of charity galas and country club memberships. Even in jeans and a cashmere sweater, she looked like money. The kind of effortless elegance that my wife spent hours trying to achieve with department store clothes and YouTube makeup tutorials. "Owen Mercer," she said, extending a manicured hand. "Thank you for meeting me." "Mrs. Thornton." She sat on the opposite end of the bench, maintaining the careful distance that wealthy people use to navigate uncomfortable conversations. "I assume you know why I'm here." "I have a pretty good idea." "How long have you known?" Straight to the point. I respected that. "About a month. Maybe longer, if I'm being honest. The signs were there, but I didn't want to see them." She nodded, staring across the park at a group of teenagers playing basketball. "I've suspected for 3 months. Philip thinks he's subtle, but 18 years of marriage teaches you to recognize the patterns. The late meetings, the sudden interest in mentoring female employees, the way he started working out again and buying expensive cologne. I'm sorry." "Are you?" She turned to look at me directly. "Because from where I'm sitting, you orchestrated last night's little drama perfectly. One photograph, sent at exactly the right moment, timed to cause maximum damage to both of their careers." I didn't deny it. "Your husband destroyed my marriage. I thought you should know what kind of man you're married to. What I want to know," she continued, "is what you plan to do next." "Next?" "Owen, let's not play games. You're not some heartbroken husband who just wanted to expose the truth. You're angry, you're smart, and you've been planning this for weeks. That photograph wasn't a lucky accident. You followed them, you positioned yourself perfectly, and you waited for the right moment to detonate their little affair." She was right, of course. But I wasn't ready to show all my cards to someone I'd just met, even if we were on the same team. Maybe I just wanted my wife to come home. Abigail laughed, a sound like crystal breaking. Your wife spent last night crying about her ruined career, not her ruined marriage. She's not coming home, Owen. She's planning her comeback. What do you mean? Philip called in sick today. First time in 5 years, but I know he's not sick. He's strategizing. Men like my husband don't just accept defeat when their affairs get exposed. They find ways to turn the situation to their advantage. She pulled out her phone and showed me a text message. This arrived at 6 this morning. The message was from Philip. Working from home today. Don't wait up tonight. Emergency board meeting about personnel issues. Personnel issues, I repeated. Your wife, specifically. Philip is going to find a way to blame her for everything. Make her the aggressor, the seductress who pursued him. By the time he's finished rewriting history, she'll be the one who gets terminated while he emerges as the victim of workplace harassment. I thought about Danielle's tears the night before, her confusion about why her promotion had been canceled. She really didn't understand what was happening to her. Why are you telling me this? Because I want to make sure my husband loses everything. Abigail's voice carried 18 years of accumulated resentment. His job, his reputation, his comfortable life where he gets to play corporate king while I manage his social calendar and pretend not to notice his affairs. Affairs? Plural? Oh, Owen, your wife isn't special. She's just the latest in a long line of ambitious young women who thought sleeping with the CEO was a career strategy. The difference is, this time he got caught by someone who knows how to fight back. A jogger passed our bench, earbuds in, completely absorbed in her own world. I envied her simplicity, just feet hitting pavement, heart pumping, no complicated revenge schemes or marriage wreckage. What do you want from me? Partnership, Abigail said. You know Thornton Industries from the inside. You understand how the building works, who has access to what, where the security cameras are located. I know the social dynamics, the board members' wives, the gossip networks that really run this town. And together we do what exactly? We make sure that when this scandal breaks wide open, Philip is the one who gets destroyed, not our cheating spouses. She stood up and smoothed down her sweater. Think about it, Owen. Your wife is going to try to save her career by throwing you under the bus. She'll claim you're a jealous, controlling husband who sabotaged her success. Philip will back up her story because it serves his interests. That's a pretty cynical view of marriage. Is it wrong? I thought about Danielle's performance the night before, the way she'd positioned herself as the victim of office politics rather than the architect of her own destruction. No, it's not wrong. Good. Then we understand each other. Abigail handed me a business card with her personal cell phone number written on the back. Call me when you're ready to stop playing defense and start playing offense. She walked back toward her Range Rover, leaving me alone on the bench with my thoughts and a decision to make. The woman on the swing set had moved on to the slide, her daughter climbing the ladder with the fearless confidence that comes from believing the world is safe, and parents always catch you when you fall. I used to believe that too. My phone buzzed with a text from Danielle. Having lunch with Maya to discuss strategy. Don't wait up for dinner. Maya Rodriguez, Danielle's best friend since college, her maid of honor, the godmother to the children we'd never had. If Danielle was discussing strategy with Maya, it meant she was planning her counterattack. I called the number on Abigail's business card. That was quick, she answered. When do we start? Tonight. There's a charity auction at the country club. Philip will be there, playing the role of the devoted husband while he figures out how to spin this situation. Your wife will probably be there too, trying to show everyone that she's not hiding from the gossip. I don't exactly run in country club circles. You do now. I'm buying a table, and you're my guest. Wear a suit, Owen. It's time to see how the other half destroys each other. The line went quiet. and I sat in the park for another 20 minutes, watching normal families live their normal lives. A father taught his son to throw a baseball. A mother packed up a picnic lunch. Teenagers flirted by the basketball court with all the drama and intensity that comes from thinking your problems are the most important things in the world. I drove home to find a note on the kitchen counter. Gone to Maya's. Need to think. Back late. D. Our house felt different. Empty. Not peaceful, just hollow. The family photos on the mantel looked like evidence from someone else's life. The wedding picture from 12 years ago showed two people who believed in forever, who thought love was enough to overcome anything. Those people were idiots. I went upstairs to our bedroom and opened Danielle's closet. Her clothes were organized by color and season, everything pressed and perfect. The new lingerie was hidden behind her work dresses, black lace and red silk that I'd never seen her wear. Price tags still attached to some pieces, like she was saving them for special occasions or special promotions. I found the suit I'd worn to my father's funeral 3 years ago, hanging in the back of my side of the closet like a bad memory. Navy blue, conservative, the kind of outfit that helped you blend into corporate environments where you didn't belong. It still fit, though the shoulders felt tighter than I remembered. The charity auction was being held at Riverside Country Club, the same place where Philip and Abigail Thornton probably celebrated their wedding anniversary every year. I'd driven past it hundreds of times, but never imagined I'd be walking through the front door as someone's guest. The valet looked surprised when I pulled up in my 15-year-old Ford, but he took the keys without comment. The lobby was all marble floors and crystal chandeliers, with oil paintings of local dignitaries who'd probably made their fortunes in steel and manufacturing back when this part of the country still made things instead of just managing them. Abigail was waiting near the registration table, wearing a black cocktail dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. She looked like she belonged here, like she'd been born into this world of charity auctions and social obligations. "You clean up well," she said, adjusting my tie like we'd known each other for years instead of hours. "Thanks, I think." The key tonight is to act natural. We're not here to confront anyone or cause a scene. We're here to observe, to see how they're handling the situation, and to plant a few seeds that will grow into larger problems later. She led me into the main ballroom, where about 200 people were mingling around silent auction displays and an open bar. The men wore expensive suits and talked about golf handicaps and stock portfolios. The women wore designer dresses and discussed their children's college applications and upcoming vacations to Europe. This was Danielle's dream world, the social circle she'd been trying to break into for years through her job at Thornton Industries. The irony was that I was experiencing it before she was, and only because our marriage had exploded. "There," Abigail said quietly, nodding toward the far side of the room. Philip Thornton stood near the bar, surrounded by 3 other men in identical navy suits. He looked relaxed, confident, like a man who'd successfully navigated a minor crisis and emerged unscathed. His silver hair was perfectly styled, his smile practiced and political. If I hadn't seen the photographs of him with my wife, I might have thought he was exactly what he appeared to be, a successful businessman supporting local charities. "He doesn't look worried," I observed. "He's not. Philip has weathered scandals before. The key is controlling the narrative before it gets out of hand." Abigail accepted a glass of wine from a passing waiter. "Watch his body language. See how he's positioning himself as the center of attention? That's not accidental. He's reminding everyone in this room that he's still the CEO of the largest employer in town." "And where's my wife?" "She's not here," which is actually perfect for our purposes. Her absence looks like guilt, like she's hiding from the consequences of her actions. Meanwhile, Philip is here with his devoted wife, showing everyone that his marriage is solid. I felt a flash of anger at being used as a prop in Abigail's performance, but I pushed it down. She was right. We needed each other if we wanted to win this war. The auction began with a series of vacation packages and restaurant gift certificates. I bid on a weekend at a local resort, not because I wanted it, but because Abigail whispered that it would make me look like I belonged here. The auctioneer was a professional who kept the energy high and the bidding competitive, turning charitable giving into a contact sport. During the intermission, Philip Thornton approached our table. "Abigail, darling," he said, kissing his wife's cheek with practiced affection. "I didn't expect to see you here tonight. It's the Children's Hospital auction, Philip. We've attended every year for the past decade. Of course, it's been such a busy week I lost track." He turned to me with the kind of smile that politicians use when they can't remember your name but need your vote. "And you must be—" "Owen Mercer," I said, standing to shake his hand. "I work at Thornton Industries, facilities management." His grip was firm, his eye contact direct. If he recognized my name or connected me to the previous night's drama, he didn't show it. "Excellent. Always good to see our employees supporting the community." "Owen's wife works there too," Abigail said casually. "Danielle Mercer. I believe she was up for a promotion recently." Something flickered behind Philip's eyes. Recognition, calculation, maybe a hint of concern. But his smile never wavered. "Ah, yes, Danielle. Talented woman. Unfortunately, the position she was interested in required more experience than she currently has. I'm sure she'll be ready for advancement opportunities in the future." "I'm sure she will," I said. We stood there for a moment, three people who knew exactly what we were really talking about, maintaining the polite fiction that this was just casual conversation between acquaintances. "Well," Philip said finally, "I should get back to the other board members. Enjoy the rest of the evening." He walked away, and Abigail sat back down with a satisfied expression. "Perfect," she said. "Perfect how? He didn't admit anything, didn't show any weakness. Owen, you just shook hands with the man who's been having an affair with your wife, and he had no idea who you were. That tells us everything we need to know about how seriously he takes you as a threat." She was right. In Philip Thornton's world, I was invisible. Just another employee who fixed broken air conditioners and changed light bulbs. He'd never considered that the husband of his latest conquest might be capable of fighting back. That was going to be his first mistake. But it wouldn't be his last. The charity auction ended with Abigail buying a week-long Mediterranean cruise for $12,000 and me winning a weekend resort package I'd never use. We said our goodbyes in the country club parking lot, two conspirators who'd successfully completed the first phase of reconnaissance. "Tomorrow," she said, climbing into her Range Rover, "we start applying pressure." I drove home through empty suburban streets, past houses where normal couples were probably watching late-night television or discussing their children's homework. The kind of mundane domestic conversations that I used to think were boring but now seemed like luxuries I'd never appreciate again. Danielle's Lexus wasn't in the driveway. The house felt different when I walked inside, not just empty, but abandoned. Her coffee cup from the morning was still in the sink, her reading glasses on the kitchen counter next to a stack of unopened mail. The newspaper was folded to the business section with an article about Thornton Industries' quarterly earnings circled in red ink. I found a note on the refrigerator. "Staying at Maya's tonight. Need space to think. We'll talk tomorrow. D." Space to think, or space to plan her next move. I opened my laptop and spent 2 hours researching Thornton Industries' corporate structure, board of directors, and recent financial performance. The company employed 800 people in our town, making it the largest private employer in the region. Philip Thornton had built it from a small manufacturing business inherited from his father into a diversified industrial conglomerate with contracts throughout the Midwest. But success had made him careless. The company's website featured dozens of photos from corporate events, charity functions, and employee recognition ceremonies. In at least 6 of them, Philip was standing next to attractive female employees, his hand resting on their shoulders or arms, in ways that suggested more than professional relationships. My wife wasn't his first conquest. She was just the most recent. I created a new email account and spent another hour researching the personal information of Thornton Industries board members, names, addresses, spouses, children, the kind of details that turn abstract corporate governance into personal relationships. These weren't just business executives. They were members of the same country club where I'd spent the evening, parents whose children attended the same private schools, couples who socialized at the same charity events. They had reputations to protect. My phone rang at 11:30. Danielle. Owen, are you awake? Yeah. I've been thinking about what happened yesterday, and I need to ask you something. Her voice sounded different, not crying anymore, but calculating. Did you know about Philip and me? The question hung in the air between us like smoke from a house fire. I could lie, could pretend that her affair had been a complete surprise, but something in her tone told me she already knew the answer. Yes. How long? About a month. And you didn't say anything? Didn't try to stop me or fight for our marriage? What would you have done if I'd confronted you? She was quiet for a long moment. I would have denied it. I would have told you that you were being paranoid and jealous, that you were trying to sabotage my career because you couldn't handle my success. So why would I waste my time? Because that's what husbands are supposed to do, Owen. They're supposed to fight for their marriages, not sit back and watch them fall apart. Like you fought for ours? That's different. I was trying to build something better for us, a future where we wouldn't have to worry about money or status. Everything I did was for our marriage, even if you can't see that. The rationalization was breathtaking in its completeness. She'd convinced herself that destroying our relationship was actually an attempt to improve it. Where are we now, Danielle? I don't know. Maya thinks I should file for divorce, claim that you've been emotionally abusive and controlling. She says any lawyer would believe that a blue-collar husband would be threatened by his wife's professional success. Maya. I'd been wondering when she'd show her hand. And what do you think? I think I want to save my marriage and my career, but I'm not sure I can do both. Philip won't even take my calls. HR scheduled a meeting with me for Monday morning, and Maya says that's usually when they fire people. Maybe you should start looking for a new job. A new job? Her voice rose with indignation. Owen, I've spent 3 years building relationships at Thornton Industries. I know every client, every project, every strategic initiative. I'm not going to throw that away because of one mistake. One mistake. That's what 12 years of marriage had been reduced to. Collateral damage from her career advancement strategy. What do you want from me, Danielle? I want you to help me fix this. I want you to be the supportive husband who stands by his wife when she's facing professional challenges. I want you to show up at company events and smile and act like we're the perfect couple so that people stop gossiping about my personal life. And in exchange? In exchange, we try to rebuild our marriage. We go to counseling. We work on our communication. We find a way to move past this and become stronger than we were before. It was a reasonable offer from someone who didn't understand that the game had already changed, that I was no longer the passive husband who fixed broken appliances and kept his mouth shut while his wife destroyed their life together. I need to think about it, I said. Think about it? Owen, this is our marriage we're talking about, our future together. What is there to think about? I'll call you tomorrow. I hung up before she could respond and sat in my kitchen, surrounded by the remnants of a life that had been built on assumptions that no longer applied. The refrigerator hummed, the clock ticked, the house settled around me like a tomb. At midnight, I sent Abigail Thornton a text. Ready for Phase 2. Her response came immediately. Meet me at Riverside Park tomorrow at 8 a.m. Bring your employee badge and building access card. Sunday morning arrived gray and cold, with the kind of October weather that reminded you winter was coming whether you were ready or not. I found Abigail sitting in her car near the tennis courts, drinking coffee from an expensive travel mug and reading something on her tablet. You look tired, she said when I got into the passenger seat. Long night. My wife wants me to help her save her career. Interesting. What did you tell her? That I'd think about it. Good. Let her believe she still has options while we eliminate them one by one. Abigail handed me a manila envelope. Everything you need to know about Thornton Industries Board of Directors. Home addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, social media profiles, and most importantly, their wives' contact information. I flipped through the pages, detailed dossiers on 12 of the most powerful people in our town. How did you get all this? 18 years of charity work and country club memberships. You'd be amazed what people will tell you when they think you're just another wealthy housewife who cares about flower arrangements and fundraising committees. What's the plan? We're going to make Philip's affair everyone's business. Not through gossip or rumors, but through documented evidence that forces the board to take action. She pulled out her phone and showed me a series of text messages. These arrived this morning. The messages were from various board members' wives, all expressing concern about rumors they'd heard regarding Philip's conduct with female employees. Apparently, my handshake with the CEO at the charity auction had been more significant than I'd realized. Several people had noticed our interaction and started asking questions. You planted seeds, I said. We planted seeds. Your presence at that event, combined with your wife's conspicuous absence, created exactly the kind of social speculation that makes wealthy people nervous about their reputations. And now? Now we give them something concrete to be nervous about. Your building access card gets us into Thornton Industries after hours. We're going to document every inappropriate relationship your husband has had with female employees over the past 5 years. That's breaking and entering. No. That's an employee using his legitimate access to retrieve forgotten personal items on a Sunday morning. You have every right to be in that building, Owen. What we do once we're inside is just thorough research. She was right, technically. As a facilities manager, I had master key access to most areas of the building, including executive offices. I'd used it hundreds of times to fix heating systems, replace light fixtures, and handle maintenance emergencies. But I'd never used it to destroy someone's career. What about security cameras? What about them? You're an employee doing legitimate work. If anyone asks, you were checking on a heating problem in the executive wing. Abigail started her car. Follow me to the Thornton building. Park in your usual spot, use your badge to get us inside, and let me handle the rest. The Thornton Industries building on Sunday morning was a monument to corporate emptiness. 7 floors of darkened offices and silent hallways. I badged us through the main entrance and led Abigail to the executive elevator, our footsteps echoing against polished marble floors. Philip's office is on the 7th floor, she said as we rode up. Corner office, northwest side. He keeps personnel files in a locked cabinet behind his desk. How do you know that? Because I've been to enough corporate Christmas parties to know the layout of my husband's office better than he does. The 7th floor was executive territory, thick carpets, expensive artwork, and the kind of hushed atmosphere that comes from making important decisions behind closed doors. Philip's office was exactly what you'd expect from a CEO. Massive mahogany desk, leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, and a locked filing cabinet that took me less than 5 minutes to open with tools from my maintenance kit. Personnel files, Abigail said, pulling out folders organized alphabetically. Here we go. Female employees, performance reviews, salary histories, and... She stopped, holding up a manila folder. Photographs. The folder contained dozens of pictures from company events, business trips, and corporate retreats. But these weren't the sanitized photos that appeared on the company website. These were personal shots. Philip with various female employees at hotel bars, restaurant dinners, and what appeared to be weekend getaways disguised as business conferences. My wife appeared in 6 of the photos, all taken within the past 3 months. Philip's hand on her waist at a company picnic. The 2 of them sharing a bottle of wine at what looked like a business dinner. Danielle laughing at something he whispered in her ear during a corporate presentation. He keeps trophies, I said. Men like Philip always do. It's not enough to have the affairs. They need to document their conquests. Abigail was photographing each picture with her phone. These photos, combined with the personnel files showing unusual salary increases and promotion patterns, create a clear picture of systematic harassment. Or they show a pattern of women trading favors for career advancement. Same result, different narrative. Either way, the board can't ignore this kind of liability. She closed the folder and returned it to the filing cabinet. But we need more than photographs. We need communications, emails, text messages, something that shows explicit quid pro quo arrangements. His computer? Password protected and I don't know it, but I know someone who might. Abigail pulled out her phone and dialed a number. Sandra, it's Abigail Thornton. I'm sorry to bother you on a Sunday, but I'm at the office with Philip and he's forgotten his computer password again. You know how he is with technology. She listened for a moment, then wrote something on a piece of paper. Thank you so much. Yes, I'll tell him you said hello. She hung up and showed me the paper. Thornton, 2024. Sandra Voss gave you her boss's password? Sandra has been managing Philip's technological incompetence for 8 years. She's used to wives calling about forgotten passwords. Abigail moved to the computer and typed in the password. And she has no idea that I know about the affairs. The computer unlocked, revealing a desktop organized with the obsessive precision of a man who controlled every aspect of his professional life. Abigail navigated to the email program and began searching through folders. Here, she said, personal correspondence, dating back 2 years. The emails were a masterclass in corporate seduction, carefully worded messages that could be read as either professional mentorship or an intimate advance, depending on perspective. Philip had perfected the art of plausible deniability, never stating his intentions outright, while still making them unmistakably clear to anyone who caught the subtext. The thread with my wife began 4 months ago with a message about career development opportunities, and evolved into increasingly personal exchanges about after-hours collaboration and performance incentives. Print everything, I said, already on it. Abigail was copying files to a USB drive while the printer churned out page after page of evidence. Emails, personnel files, salary records, performance reviews, everything we need to prove that Philip has been running a systematic pay-for-play scheme with female employees. We spent another hour documenting 5 years of inappropriate relationships, each following the same pattern: initial contact disguised as mentorship, escalation to personal meetings, intimate relationships in exchange for promotions and salary increases, then disposal when the women became inconvenient or demanding. My wife was just the latest victim in a well-established system, or the latest participant, depending on how you looked at it. We have enough, Abigail said finally, packing the USB drive and printed documents into her purse. Time to go before security makes their rounds. We rode the elevator down in silence, 2 people who'd just crossed a line from which there was no return. The lobby felt different now, not like a place where I worked, but like a crime scene where I'd gathered evidence. What happens now? I asked as we walked toward our cars. Now we decide how to use what we've learned. We can go to the board of directors, we can go to the media, or we can go directly to the wives of every woman Philip has harassed over the past 5 years. Or we can use it as leverage to destroy him slowly, piece by piece, until he has nothing left. Abigail's smile was sharp as winter wind. What would you prefer, Owen? Quick justice or prolonged revenge? I thought about Danielle's phone call the night before, her assumption that I would help her save the career she'd built on another man's bed. I thought about Philip Thornton's condescending handshake at the charity auction, his complete dismissal of me as a threat. Prolonged revenge, I said. Good. Then tomorrow, we start destroying everything they think they can't live without. She drove away. leaving me alone in the parking lot of a building where I'd worked for 8 years, but would never see the same way again. The October wind carried the smell of fallen leaves and the approach of winter, reminding me that some seasons end whether you're ready or not. But sometimes, if you're smart and patient and angry enough, you get to choose how they end. And who gets buried when the ground freezes? Monday morning arrived gray and cold, the kind of drizzle that made October feel like a rehearsal for winter. I sat in my truck outside Thornton Industries, watching employees hurry inside with coffee cups and umbrellas. Everyone thought this was just another week. It wasn't. My phone buzzed. Abigail. Packages delivered to board members. Expect fireworks by noon. At 8:15, Danielle pulled into her reserved spot, 3 rows closer to the building than mine. She stayed in her Lexus for a few minutes, gathering herself. When she stepped out, she wore her navy power suit with the red scarf she said made her look authoritative. She looked like someone heading to sentencing. I gave her a 10-minute head start and went to the basement, facilities management, my quiet corner of the company. Tommy, my assistant, glanced up. Rough weekend? Something like that. I spent the morning pretending to focus on work orders while my phone buzzed with updates. By 10:30, board members were calling lawyers. By 11, HR was quietly interviewing women who'd been promoted under Philip Thornton. By 11:30, Philip had locked himself in his office with legal counsel. At noon, Danielle called. Owen, something terrible is happening. HR is asking questions about Philip and me. Someone leaked information. That's unfortunate. They're acting like I seduced him for career advancement. I need you here. I need you to show we're united. You want me to lie. I want my husband to support me. This is what marriage is. The irony was almost impressive. I'll be there, I said. Abigail was pleased. My presence would make Philip look worse and seal his fate. Upstairs, the atmosphere had changed. Conversations stopped when people saw me. Everyone already knew. Danielle met me near HR, wrapped her arms around me like we were surviving a war together. She said Philip had been harassing her, pressuring her, crossing lines she was too afraid to report. HR wanted both of us. Sandra Voss questioned us calmly. Danielle painted herself as a victim, unwanted comments, fear of retaliation, silence for survival. The affair was rewritten as harassment. Then Sandra looked at me. I didn't tell the truth. I offered something safer, carefully shaped half-truths. Danielle had been stressed, pressured, afraid her career depended on pleasing senior management. Nothing technically false, nothing honest either. Enough. By the end of the day, Philip Thornton was placed on administrative leave. An outside firm was hired. By evening, the story leaked. By night, his career was finished. At home, Danielle drafted a press statement. Victim, survivor, strong marriage. She asked what I'd say if reporters called. I'll say I support my wife. She said she loved me. Said this would make us stronger. 12 years of marriage reduced to a mistake at work. I stood in the kitchen, watching her rewrite reality on her laptop, and understood something clearly. I wasn't interested in saving anything anymore. I just wanted to watch it burn. And tomorrow, Abigail and I would help it along. Tuesday morning brought local news trucks to the Thornton Industries parking lot and reporters with microphones stalking employees as they tried to get to work. The scandal had exploded overnight from corporate gossip to regional news story, complete with file photos of Philip Thornton and speculation about the culture of harassment at one of the area's largest employers. I parked in my usual spot and walked past 3 different news crews, keeping my head down and ignoring the shouted questions about my wife's allegations. The lobby was chaos, security guards trying to control access, employees clustering in worried conversations, and Sandra Voss moving through it all like a general managing a battlefield. Owen! She intercepted me near the elevators. I need to speak with you privately. We rode up to the 7th floor in silence, past Philip Thornton's empty office, with its door sealed by corporate security tape. Sandra led me to a conference room where two people I didn't recognize were waiting, a man and woman in expensive suits who had the unmistakable look of lawyers brought in to manage a crisis. "Mr. Mercer, this is Jennifer Walsh and David Chen from Morrison, Walsh & Associates. They're conducting the independent investigation into allegations against Mr. Thornton." Jennifer Walsh was 40-something with silver hair and the kind of direct gaze that suggested she'd spent years extracting truth from people who preferred lies. David Chen was younger, probably early 30s, with a legal pad and the eager expression of someone building his reputation on high-profile cases. "Mr. Mercer, thank you for meeting with us," Jennifer said. "We know this is a difficult situation for you and your wife. I'm happy to help however I can. We've reviewed the statement you gave to Ms. Voss yesterday, and we'd like to ask some follow-up questions. Specifically, we're trying to establish a timeline of your wife's interactions with Mr. Thornton." David Chen opened his legal pad. "When did your wife first mention feeling uncomfortable at work?" I thought carefully before answering. The truth was that Danielle had never mentioned feeling uncomfortable. She'd been excited about her promotion opportunities, energized by her late-night meetings, practically glowing with the attention she was receiving from the CEO. "It was gradual," I said. "She started working longer hours about 4 months ago. More business dinners, more client meetings, more pressure to be available for after-hours discussions." "Did she ever express concerns about Mr. Thornton's behavior specifically?" "She mentioned feeling like her job security depended on maintaining personal relationships with senior management rather than just doing good work." Again, technically true but carefully worded to support the harassment narrative without requiring me to invent specific incidents. "Mr. Mercer," Jennifer Walsh leaned forward, "I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I need you to give me an honest answer. Did you ever suspect that your wife was having an affair with Mr. Thornton?" The question hung in the air like smoke from an explosion. This was the moment where I could destroy Danielle's carefully constructed victim narrative, expose her lies, and reveal the truth about what had really happened between her and Philip Thornton. "I trusted my wife," I said. "When she told me she was working late to advance her career, I believed her. It never occurred to me that her boss might be manipulating her dedication for his own purposes." Jennifer made notes. "So you had no knowledge of any romantic or intimate relationship between your wife and Mr. Thornton?" "I had no knowledge of any relationship that my wife wanted to be in." The phrasing was deliberate. It suggested coercion without explicitly claiming it, supported the harassment narrative without requiring me to lie about facts I could prove. "I see. And how would you describe your marriage during this period?" "Strained. My wife was stressed about work, anxious about her performance, worried that she wasn't meeting expectations. It put pressure on our relationship." "Did she ever ask you for advice about how to handle Mr. Thornton's behavior?" "She asked me how to navigate office politics, how to maintain professional relationships without compromising her integrity. I told her to document everything and trust her instincts." David Chen looked up from his legal pad. "Document everything?" "Keep records of meetings, save emails, maintain a paper trail of her work assignments. Standard advice for anyone dealing with difficult workplace dynamics." "Did your wife follow that advice?" "I assume so. She's very organized, very thorough about her professional responsibilities." The lawyers exchanged glances, the kind of look that suggested they'd just learned something significant. "Mr. Mercer, we may need to examine your wife's personal records as part of this investigation. Emails, text messages, photographs, anything that might document her interactions with Mr. Thornton. Of course, we want to cooperate fully with your investigation. Thank you. We'll be in touch if we need any additional information." I left the conference room and took the elevator down to the basement, where Tommy Rodriguez was waiting with a maintenance emergency that required immediate attention. "Heating systems acting up on the 3rd floor," he said. "Half the offices are freezing. Half are like saunas, probably a control valve problem. I spent the next 4 hours crawling through mechanical spaces and adjusting HVAC controls, losing myself in the familiar rhythm of practical work. Fixing things that were broken, solving problems that had clear solutions, dealing with systems that operated according to logical principles rather than human psychology. It was almost peaceful. At lunch, I called Abigail from my truck. "How did the lawyer meeting go?" she asked. "They're going to want to examine Danielle's personal records, emails, text messages, photographs." "Perfect. That'll expose all the communications that prove she was a willing participant rather than a harassment victim." "What about Philip?" "Philip is finished. The board met this morning and voted to terminate his employment immediately. They're also launching a broader investigation into the company's hiring and promotion practices over the past 5 years." "And his wife?" "His soon-to-be ex-wife is filing for divorce and demanding half of everything he owns. Apparently, she's been documenting his affairs for years, just waiting for the right moment to destroy him." The irony was perfect. While Philip Thornton had been collecting photographs of his conquests, his wife had been collecting evidence of his betrayals. Everyone was documenting everyone else's destruction. What's next? Next, we let the investigation run its course. The lawyers will uncover all the evidence we planted. Your wife's victim narrative will collapse under scrutiny, and both of them will be exposed as willing participants in a systematic abuse of corporate power. And then we watch them try to rebuild their lives from the wreckage of their reputations. I hung up and drove to the sandwich shop where Danielle and I used to have lunch dates during the early years of our marriage, back when we still enjoyed each other's company and believed in shared futures. The place looked the same: red vinyl booths, black and white checkered floors, and the kind of comfort food that reminded you of simpler times. Danielle was waiting in our old booth, wearing sunglasses indoors and checking her phone every 30 seconds. She'd chosen a corner table where she could see the entire restaurant while keeping her back to the wall, the seating choice of someone who expected ambush. "Thank you for coming," she said when I sat down. "I wasn't sure you would." "Why wouldn't I?" "Because this morning's newspaper made it sound like I'm some kind of corporate seductress who destroyed my marriage for a promotion. The comments online are even worse." I'd seen the newspaper coverage. A front-page story about the harassment investigation at Thornton Industries, complete with quotes from sources close to the situation, who described a pattern of inappropriate relationships between senior management and female employees. Danielle wasn't named specifically, but anyone who knew the players could connect the dots. What did Maya say? Maya thinks we need to be more aggressive about controlling the narrative. She wants me to do a television interview, tell my story, before other people define it for me. Your story? The truth, Owen. That I was a dedicated employee who became the victim of systematic workplace harassment, and that my marriage is strong enough to survive this crisis. She'd rehearsed the talking points so thoroughly that they sounded like a campaign speech. Every word carefully chosen, every phrase focus grouped for maximum sympathy. "The lawyers want to examine your personal records," I said. Her hand froze halfway to her coffee cup. "What kind of records?" "Emails, text messages, photographs, anything that documents your interactions with Philip." That's a violation of privacy. They can't just go through someone's personal communications without cause." "They have cause. You filed harassment allegations against the CEO of a major corporation. They need to verify your claims. But if they read my emails, if they see—" She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't need to. We both knew what those emails contained. Months of increasingly personal communications between her and Philip Thornton that would expose her victim narrative as complete fiction. "Maybe you should withdraw your allegations." "Withdraw them?" "Owen, if I withdraw my harassment claims now, it'll look like I was lying. My career will be over, my reputation will be destroyed, and will never recover from the scandal." "And if the lawyers find evidence that contradicts your story?" They won't find anything that contradicts my story because I'm telling the truth. Yes, I exchanged emails with Philip, but they were professional communications about work projects and career development. If some of them seem personal, it's because he was manipulating me, making me feel like I needed to maintain a friendship with him to protect my job. The rationalization was breathtaking in its completeness. She'd rewritten every flirtatious email, every suggestive text message, every romantic dinner as evidence of harassment, rather than evidence of an affair. What do you need from me? I need you to support me publicly. The lawyers, the media, the community. Everyone needs to see that my husband believes in my innocence and stands by me during this difficult time. And privately? Privately, I need you to help me prepare for what's coming. The lawyers are going to ask detailed questions about our marriage, about my behavior over the past few months, about whether you noticed any changes in my mood or attitude. What am I supposed to tell them? Tell them that I was stressed about work, but never gave you any reason to suspect I was having an affair. Tell them that our marriage was strong, that we communicated openly about the challenges I was facing at work. You want me to lie? I want you to support your wife's version of events. I want you to remember that we're a team, that what hurts me hurts you, and that the only way we survive this is by presenting a united front. She reached across the table and took my hand, her wedding ring catching the light from the window. Owen, I know I made mistakes. I know I should have handled the situation with Philip differently, should have reported his behavior sooner, should have been more careful about protecting myself from his manipulation. But I was trying to build a better future for us. Everything I did was motivated by love for you and ambition for our life together. If that makes me guilty of poor judgment, then I accept that responsibility, but I am not guilty of having an affair. The performance was flawless. The wronged wife asking for her husband's support, the harassment victim seeking justice, the dedicated employee who'd been manipulated by a predatory boss. If I hadn't seen the photographs, hadn't read the emails, hadn't watched her transform from loving wife to corporate climber over the course of 4 months, I might have believed every word. I'll support you, I said. Thank you. She squeezed my hand. Maya was right. You're a good man, Owen. Better than I deserve. Maya was right about a lot of things, apparently. We finished lunch in relative silence, two people who'd run out of things to say to each other but weren't ready to admit it. Danielle paid the check, a gesture that probably meant something symbolic about independence or equality, but felt more like a reminder of how much our relationship had changed. I have to get back to work, I said in the parking lot. Me too. The lawyers want to interview me again this afternoon, and I need to prepare my answers. Good luck. Owen? She paused with her hand on her car door. Whatever happens with the investigation, whatever people say about me, I want you to know that I love you and I'm grateful for your support. I know. She drove away, leaving me alone in the parking lot of the restaurant where we used to plan our future together. The October wind was picking up, carrying the smell of wood smoke and fallen leaves, a reminder that winter arrives whether you're ready or not. I called Abigail. How did lunch go? She wants me to lie to the lawyers about our marriage, about her behavior, about everything that happened over the past 4 months. And will you? I'll tell them exactly what I told you I'd tell them. Carefully worded statements that support her harassment narrative without requiring me to invent specific incidents. Good. Let her believe you're still on her team while the investigation destroys her credibility piece by piece. What about Maya? What about her? Danielle keeps mentioning Maya's advice, Maya's strategy, Maya's media recommendations. She's been involved in this from the beginning. Interesting. Maybe we should find out exactly how involved. The line went quiet for a moment, and I could hear Abigail thinking through the implications. Owen, I think it's time we had a conversation with Maya Rodriguez. When? Tonight. After the lawyers finish interviewing your wife and she's too exhausted to notice where you are. Where should we meet? Maya's office. I think it's time she learned that some strategies have consequences. I hung up and drove back to Thornton Industries, where news crews were still camped in the parking lot and employees were still trying to navigate the chaos of a corporate scandal that was growing larger by the hour. But the real chaos was just beginning. Because tonight, Abigail and I were going to discover exactly how deep this conspiracy went, and who else deserved to have their life destroyed by the truth. Maya Rodriguez worked late most Tuesday nights, a habit that Danielle had mentioned dozens of times over the years, whenever she needed to explain why her best friend couldn't join us for dinner or weekend plans. The law firm of Henderson, Martinez and Associates occupied the 8th floor of a downtown office building that looked impressive during business hours but felt abandoned after dark. Abigail and I met in the parking garage at 9 o'clock, two conspirators who'd spent the day watching our respective spouses dig themselves deeper into holes they couldn't escape. "Any word from the lawyers?" she asked as we rode the elevator up. "They finished interviewing Danielle an hour ago. She texted me that it went well, that they seemed sympathetic to her harassment claims. They're building a case, Owen. Every question they asked was designed to create a record they can use to expose her lies when they find the evidence that contradicts her story." The elevator opened onto a hallway lined with law offices, each door marked with partner names and practice specializations. Henderson, Martinez and Associates specialized in corporate law and employment litigation, exactly the kind of firm that would understand the legal implications of what Danielle and Philip had been doing. Maya's office was at the end of the hall, her name stenciled on frosted glass in gold letters that caught the light from the security fixtures. Through the glass, we could see her silhouette bent over a desk, working late, just like Danielle had said. Abigail knocked. "Come in." Maya Rodriguez looked up from a stack of legal documents, her expression shifting from professional courtesy to confusion to something that might have been fear when she saw who was standing in her doorway. "Owen, what are you doing here? And Mrs. Thornton, I wasn't expecting—" "We need to talk," Abigail said, closing the door behind us. "About your role in this situation." "My role? I don't understand. I'm just supporting my friend through a difficult time." Maya was 34, attractive in the way that successful professional women learn to be, well-dressed, well-groomed, and carefully controlled. She'd been Danielle's best friend since college, her maid of honor at our wedding, and the person my wife turned to for advice about everything from career decisions to marriage problems. "Sit down, Maya," I said. "We know about the strategy sessions, the media coaching, the careful construction of Danielle's harassment narrative. What we want to know is why." She remained standing, her hand resting on her desk phone like she was considering calling security. "I don't know what you're talking about. Danielle came to me for legal advice about workplace harassment, and I provided it. That's what friends do." "Friends?" Abigail repeated. "Is that what you call someone whose marriage you helped destroy?" "I didn't destroy anyone's marriage. Danielle made her own choices, and now she's dealing with the consequences. I'm just trying to help her minimize the damage. By transforming her from perpetrator to victim? By helping her understand her legal rights in a hostile work environment." Maya moved around her desk, putting distance between herself and us. But there was nowhere to go in the small office, and we were blocking the only exit. "Owen," she said, "I know this is painful for you, but Danielle really was being harassed by Philip Thornton. She may not have handled it perfectly, but she was trying to navigate an impossible situation." "What situation was that exactly?" "A situation where her career advancement depended on maintaining a personal relationship with a predatory boss who used his position to manipulate vulnerable employees." The talking points were identical to Danielle's, the same carefully crafted narrative, the same victim positioning, the same transformation of willing participation into coerced compliance. "Maya," Abigail said, "we've seen the emails, we've seen the photographs. We know exactly what kind of relationship your friend had with my husband. Then you know that she was being manipulated by a man who had power over her career and her financial security. What I know is that she was having an affair and you helped her cover it up. Maya's professional composure cracked slightly. Cover it up? I advised her to be careful, to document everything, to protect herself legally. That's not covering up. That's damage control. Damage control for whom? For Danielle. For her marriage. For her future. Maya looked directly at me. Owen, your wife made a mistake, but it doesn't have to destroy her entire life. If she can prove that she was being harassed, if she can show that any personal relationship was the result of workplace coercion, then she can save her career and her reputation. And our marriage? Your marriage can survive this if you support her. If you stand by her and corroborate her version of events, then you can both move forward and rebuild. By lying to investigators? By supporting your wife's interpretation of events? By understanding that sometimes the technical truth is less important than the larger truth about power dynamics and workplace harassment? The rationalization was perfect. Transform perjury into marital loyalty, turn lies into alternative interpretations, make conspiracy sound like friendship. What's your fee for this service? Abigail asked. My fee? Maya, you're not just providing legal advice to a friend, you're orchestrating a comprehensive cover-up that requires media management, witness coaching, and careful coordination of multiple false statements. That's not friendship, that's professional consultation. Maya sat down heavily in her desk chair. Danielle is my best friend. I've known her since college. When she came to me in tears, terrified that her life was falling apart, I did what any good friend would do. I helped her find a way to survive. By destroying my marriage? Your marriage was already destroyed, Owen. Danielle destroyed it when she decided to have an affair with her boss. I'm just trying to help her manage the aftermath in a way that doesn't ruin her completely. And if that requires me to lie to federal investigators? It requires you to support your wife's version of events. It requires you to remember that you're married to someone who made a mistake but doesn't deserve to have her entire life destroyed because of it. I walked to Maya's window and looked down at the city below. Streetlights and traffic signals creating patterns of movement in the darkness. Normal people going about their normal lives, unaware that 8 floors above them, 3 people were negotiating the terms of a conspiracy that would determine how much truth was worth sacrificing for the illusion of justice. Maya, I said without turning around, I have a question for you. What? Did you know about the affair while it was happening? The silence stretched long enough to become an answer. Danielle needed someone to talk to, she said finally. She was confused about her feelings, conflicted about what she was doing, afraid of the consequences for her marriage and her career. So you knew. I knew she was struggling with a complicated situation at work. You knew she was having an affair. I knew she was involved with someone who had power over her professional future. And you advised her to continue? I advised her to be careful, to think about what she really wanted from her life and her career, to consider all the possible outcomes before making any irreversible decisions. Abigail laughed, a sound like glass breaking. You advised her to have an affair with my husband. I advised her to take control of her own destiny instead of being a victim of circumstances. By becoming a victim of harassment? By recognizing that she was already a victim of harassment and finding a way to use that reality to protect herself. The logic was circular and perfect. Maya had encouraged Danielle to continue the affair while simultaneously building the legal framework to redefine it as harassment. She'd been playing both sides from the beginning, positioning her friend to benefit from the relationship while preparing the defense strategy that would protect her when it inevitably collapsed. You're brilliant, I said, turning back to face her. Absolutely brilliant. Owen, I was trying to protect my friend. No, you were trying to have it both ways. You wanted Danielle to get the promotion and the career advancement that came from sleeping with the CEO, but you also wanted her to have legal protection when the affair became public. So you coached her to create a paper trail that would support a harassment claim while encouraging her to continue the relationship that would advance her career. That's exactly what you did. You turned her into a double agent, collecting evidence of harassment while participating in an affair, building a victim narrative while pursuing career benefits, preparing for legal warfare while enjoying the spoils of corporate seduction. Maya's professional composure finally cracked completely. Fine. Yes, I helped Danielle navigate a complicated situation that could have destroyed her life. Yes, I advised her to document everything and prepare for multiple scenarios. Yes, I helped her understand that she could frame her relationship with Philip Thornton in ways that would protect her legally and professionally. And personally? And personally, I helped her understand that she didn't have to choose between her marriage and her career, that she could have both if she was smart about managing the situation. By lying to her husband? By protecting her husband from information that would only hurt him unnecessarily. You mean by protecting her from the consequences of her choices. I mean by recognizing that sometimes the truth is less important than the outcome. Abigail stood up and walked to Maya's desk. The outcome for whom? Because from where I'm sitting, the only person who benefits from this strategy is Danielle. She gets to keep her career, her marriage, and her reputation, while my husband gets destroyed and Owen gets humiliated. Your husband destroyed himself by abusing his position to coerce female employees into intimate relationships. My husband had an affair with a willing participant who was coached by her lawyer friend to reframe consensual adultery as workplace harassment. Your husband is a predator who used his corporate position to manipulate vulnerable women. Your friend is an adulteress who's trying to escape the consequences of her choices by claiming victimization. They faced each other across Maya's desk like opposing attorneys arguing a case that would determine the official version of reality. Two women with completely different interpretations of the same events, each convinced that her narrative was not just accurate, but morally superior. Maya, I said, I have one more question. What? How many other women has Danielle talked to? How many other female employees at Thornton Industries have you advised about harassment claims? Her expression told me everything I needed to know before she said a word. This isn't just about Danielle, is it? You've been building a class action harassment case against Philip Thornton using multiple clients who were having affairs with him. I've been providing legal counsel to women who were being systematically abused by a man in a position of power. You've been coaching willing participants to reframe their affairs as harassment so you can file a lawsuit that will make you rich and famous. I've been protecting vulnerable women from a predatory system that punishes victims while rewarding perpetrators. How many, Maya? How many what? How many women are you representing in this harassment case? She didn't answer, but she didn't need to. Her silence confirmed what I'd suspected since the investigation began. This wasn't just about one affair between my wife and her boss. This was about a systematic legal strategy designed to transform multiple consensual relationships into a pattern of harassment that would destroy Philip Thornton and enrich Maya Rodriguez. You're not Danielle's friend, I said. You're her lawyer. And she's not your friend. She's your client. That's not true. Then why haven't you advised her to tell me the truth about what really happened? Why haven't you encouraged her to take responsibility for her choices instead of hiding behind false harassment claims? Because the truth would destroy her, Owen. The truth would end her career, ruin her reputation, and probably end your marriage. Sometimes protecting someone you care about means helping them avoid consequences they don't deserve. Who decides what consequences people deserve? People who understand that the world isn't fair, that women face impossible choices in corporate environments dominated by men who abuse their power. Even when those women choose to participate in the abuse? Especially then, because participation doesn't equal consent when there's a power imbalance involved. The argument was legally sophisticated and morally convenient, a framework that absolved willing participants of responsibility while maximizing their legal protections and financial benefits. Maya, Abigail said, you've built a beautiful theory, but it's based on a lie. It's based on a recognition that legal truth and moral truth aren't always the same thing. It's based on greed. You saw an opportunity to get rich by representing multiple women in a high-profile harassment case, so you encouraged them to continue their affairs while building the legal framework to redefine those affairs as abuse. I saw an opportunity to hold a powerful man accountable for his actions while protecting vulnerable women from the consequences of an unfair system. You saw an opportunity to profit from other people's bad decisions. Maya stood up and walked to her office door. This conversation is over. You've made your accusations, I've explained my position, and now I think you should leave. We're not done yet, I said. Yes, we are. Owen, I understand that you're angry and hurt, but taking that anger out on me won't change what happened between your wife and Philip Thornton. I'm trying to help Danielle survive this situation with her life intact. If you can't support that effort, then you should step aside and let people who care about her handle it. People like you? People like me. I looked around Maya's office, the law books, the diplomas, the professional certificates that documented her expertise in employment litigation and corporate law. Everything she needed to transform willing participants into victims, consensual affairs into harassment, personal responsibility into legal strategy. Maya, I want you to give Danielle a message from me. What message? Tell her that I know the truth about everything. The emails, the photographs, the planning sessions with you, the media strategy, the harassment narrative, all of it. Owen, tell her that I've been documenting her affair from the beginning, that I have evidence of every lie she's told, every false statement she's made, every conspiracy she's participated in. What are you saying? I'm saying that if she continues with this harassment charade, if she perjures herself in front of federal investigators, if she tries to destroy what's left of our marriage with more lies, then I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person she really is. You're threatening to sabotage your own wife's legal case? I'm promising to tell the truth about what really happened, regardless of how that truth affects her legal strategy or her reputation. Maya's professional composure returned as she calculated the implications of what I'd just said. Owen, if you contradict Danielle's harassment claims, you'll destroy her career and probably end your marriage. Is that really what you want? What I want is for people to face the consequences of their choices instead of hiding behind elaborate lies and legal technicalities. Even if those consequences destroy everything you've built together? Everything we built together was destroyed 4 months ago, when she decided that sleeping with her boss was more important than honoring her marriage vows. I walked to the door and stopped. Maya, you're a brilliant lawyer and a terrible friend. You've spent months encouraging Danielle to make choices that would benefit your legal case while destroying her marriage and her integrity. You've turned her into a client instead of helping her become a better person. I've protected her from consequences she didn't deserve. You've prevented her from learning from mistakes that might have made her stronger. And now? Now she gets to choose between telling the truth and facing the consequences, or continuing the lies and facing worse consequences when the truth comes out anyway. Abigail and I left Maya's office and rode the elevator down in silence, two people who'd just witnessed the final piece of a conspiracy that was more elaborate and more cynical than either of us had imagined. What happens now? She asked when we reached the parking garage. Now we go home to our respective spouses and give them one last chance to tell the truth before we tell it for them. And if they refuse? Then tomorrow, we make sure the investigators get copies of every email, every photograph, and every piece of evidence that proves this harassment case is built on lies. You realize this will destroy both of them? They destroyed themselves, Abigail. We're just making sure they don't take anyone else down with them. She drove away, leaving me alone in the parking garage with the weight of decisions that would determine how many lives got destroyed by the truth. I sat in my truck for 20 minutes thinking about the conversation I was about to have with Danielle, the choice I was about to offer her, and the consequences that would follow, regardless of what she decided. Then I drove home to end my marriage, one way or another. The house was dark when I pulled into the driveway, but Danielle's car was there, which meant she was probably inside, preparing for whatever performance tomorrow would require. I found her in our bedroom, sitting on the bed with her laptop, surrounded by legal documents and handwritten notes. "Owen, thank God you're home. I need to talk to you about tomorrow's interview with the investigators. We need to talk about a lot of things." She looked up from her laptop, and something in my expression made her close it and give me her full attention. "What's wrong?" "I know about Maya." "What about Maya?" "I know about the legal strategy, the harassment narrative, the plan to transform your affair into a lawsuit that makes both of you rich and famous." The color drained from her face. "Owen, I don't know what you think you know, but I know everything, Danielle. The emails, the photographs, the planning sessions, the media coaching, all of it. I know that you've been lying to me, to the investigators, to everyone, about what really happened between you and Philip Thornton." She stood up and walked to our bedroom window, looking out at the suburban street where we'd lived for 8 years and believed we were building a life together. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to tell the truth." "The truth about what?" "The truth about your affair, the truth about your choices, the truth about what you've been doing to our marriage for the past 4 months. And if I do? If I admit that I had an affair, that I participated willingly, that I enjoyed the attention and the career advancement and the excitement of being desired by a powerful man, what happens then? Then we figure out how to move forward with honesty instead of lies. Move forward to what, Owen? A divorce where I lose everything because I committed adultery? A career where I'm blacklisted because I slept with my boss? A reputation where I'm known as the woman who destroyed her marriage for a promotion? Maybe. Maybe? That's the best you can offer me? Maybe we can survive the complete destruction of everything I've worked for. It's better than what you're offering me. A marriage built on lies, a legal case built on perjury, and a future built on the assumption that I'm too stupid or too weak to figure out what really happened. She turned back to face me, and for the first time in months, I saw the woman I'd married, not the corporate climber, or the harassment victim, or the strategic defendant, but the person who'd once loved me enough to promise forever. "Owen, I'm scared." "Of what?" "Of losing everything. My career, my reputation, my marriage, my future. Everything I've worked for, everything I am, everything I hope to become. You're going to lose it anyway, Danielle. The investigators are going to find the evidence that contradicts your harassment claims. Maya's legal strategy is going to collapse when they discover that multiple women were coached to reframe their affairs as abuse. The truth is going to come out whether you tell it or not. So why does it matter if I tell the truth now? Because it's the difference between taking responsibility for your choices and being exposed as a liar. It's the difference between facing consequences with dignity and being destroyed by your own deception. She sat back down on the bed and buried her face in her hands. "I don't know how to do this, Owen. I don't know how to tell the truth about what I've done without destroying everything I care about. You start by admitting what really happened. You had an affair with Philip Thornton. You participated willingly. You enjoyed the attention and the career benefits. You lied to me about it for months. You conspired with Maya to create a false harassment narrative to protect yourself from consequences. And then we figure out what comes next. What if what comes next is the end of our marriage? Then it ends. But it ends with honesty instead of lies." She looked at me with tears in her eyes and something that might have been relief on her face. "I had an affair with Philip Thornton. I participated willingly. I enjoyed the attention and the career benefits. I lied to you about it for months. I conspired with Maya to create a false harassment narrative to protect myself from consequences." The words hung in the air between us like smoke from a house fire. The truth that had been hidden for months, finally spoken aloud in our bedroom where we'd once planned a future together. "How do you feel?" I asked. Terrified, and relieved, and ashamed, and grateful that I finally told you the truth. "What do you want to do now?" "I want to call the investigators and tell them that I need to revise my statement. I want to call Maya and tell her that I'm withdrawing from her legal strategy. I want to call Philip and tell him that I'm not going to let him hide behind my lies anymore." "And us?" "I don't know about us, Owen. I don't know if you can forgive me, if I can forgive myself, if we can rebuild something real from the wreckage of what I've done." "Neither do I. But I know that whatever happens, I want it to be based on truth instead of lies." She picked up her phone and dialed a number. "Maya, it's Danielle. We need to talk. I'm withdrawing my harassment allegations. Because they're not true. Because I'm done lying. Because my husband deserves better than a wife who destroys their marriage and then tries to blame it on someone else." She hung up and looked at me. "What happens now?" "Now you call the investigators and tell them the truth. All of it. And after that?" "After that, we figure out if there's anything left of our marriage worth saving." She made the call, and I listened to her destroy 4 months of carefully constructed lies with 10 minutes of simple honesty. When she finished, she set the phone aside and looked at me with the expression of someone who'd just jumped off a cliff and was waiting to see if she'd survive the landing. "I'm sorry, Owen, for everything, for the affair, for the lies, for the conspiracy, for destroying our marriage and then trying to blame it on harassment and workplace politics and everything except my own choices. I know. Do you think we can survive this? I don't know, but I know we couldn't survive the alternative." She nodded and began gathering up the legal documents and notes that represented 4 months of deception and strategic planning. "I need to call Philip and tell him that he's on his own now." "What will you tell him?" "The truth. That I'm done being his co-conspirator and Maya's client and your victim. That I'm ready to face the consequences of what we did together." "And your career?" "My career is probably over, but maybe that's not the worst thing that could happen. Maybe I can find work that doesn't require me to compromise my integrity or destroy my marriage. Maybe." "Owen?" "Yeah?" "Thank you." "For what?" "For giving me the chance to tell the truth. For not letting me destroy myself with lies. For caring enough about our marriage to fight for it, even when fighting meant risking everything." I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. We sat in our bedroom, surrounded by the remnants of a life built on assumptions that no longer applied, and tried to imagine what came next. Outside, the suburban night continued its quiet rhythm, streetlights and porch lights creating patterns of safety in the darkness, normal families living their normal lives behind windows that glowed with the promise of simple happiness. Maybe we'd find our way back to that kind of life. Maybe we wouldn't. But at least now, whatever happened would be built on truth instead of lies. And sometimes, that's the best you can hope for when everything else has been destroyed by the choices you thought would save you. The phone rang. Danielle looked at the caller ID and showed it to me. Philip Thornton. "Answer it," I said. She put the phone on speaker. "Danielle, what the hell have you done?" I told the truth, Philip. "The truth? The truth is going to destroy both of us. The truth is going to end our careers, ruin our reputations, and probably land us in legal trouble for filing false harassment claims. The truth is that we had an affair, that we both participated willingly, and that we both tried to cover it up with lies when we got caught. That's not... Danielle, you can't just change your story now. Too many people are involved. Too much money is at stake. Too many careers depend on maintaining the harassment narrative." "Whose careers? Yours? Maya's? Because my career was already destroyed the moment I decided that sleeping with you was more important than my marriage and my integrity. Your marriage? Danielle, your marriage was a joke long before I came along. You were bored, unfulfilled, desperate for something more exciting than suburban domesticity with a blue-collar husband who couldn't give you the life you deserved. I looked at Danielle, waiting to see how she'd respond to Philip's attempt to justify their affair by diminishing our marriage. My marriage was imperfect, she said quietly, but it was honest, and I destroyed it for something that was neither. Danielle, listen to me. If you withdraw your harassment allegations, if you admit that our relationship was consensual, then we both lose everything. But if you stick to the story, if you maintain that I coerced you into an intimate relationship, then we can both survive this scandal. By lying. By protecting ourselves from consequences we don't deserve. We deserve exactly the consequences we get, Philip. We made choices and now we get to live with them. What about Maya? What about the other women she's representing? You're not just destroying yourself, you're destroying their legal case too. Then maybe their legal case deserves to be destroyed. Danielle. Goodbye, Philip. Good luck explaining to your wife and your board of directors how you managed to turn a simple affair into a corporate scandal that's going to cost everyone their jobs. She hung up and looked at me. How did that sound? Like the woman I married. Think she's still in there somewhere? I hope so. Me too. We spent the rest of the night talking, not about legal strategies or harassment narratives or damage control, but about what we'd lost and what we might be able to rebuild from the wreckage of our marriage. It wasn't forgiveness, and it wasn't reconciliation, and it definitely wasn't a happy ending. But it was honest. And after 4 months of lies, honesty felt like a miracle. Even if it was a miracle that might destroy everything we'd thought we wanted to save.